This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Today we have our good friend, Josh Kattenberg. How are you, Josh?
Hey, doing well. How about yourself?
Well, thanks. I'm super excited for this interview because we've known you for a while now, and I felt like over the last couple of years, we really have gotten to know you, and you are brilliant. I personally have learned something new each time that I meet with you. So we wanted our listeners to kind of learn from you as well. So just a quick bio on Josh. So Josh is the CEO and founder of Real Property Management Express. As CEO, Josh is responsible for leading the entire team by setting the company objectives, evaluating strategic opportunities, and guiding the leadership to success. He is a thought leader and visionary behind the company, and he's responsible for finance and high-level accounting. His day-to-day duties including meeting with investors, overseeing financial concerns, and serving as a responsible broker for the company. Josh is also authored of the book Rental Property Success. He enjoys riding his motorcycle and flying, and he became a member of his local flying club and enjoys flying with his family on trips. He spends a couple of days at the beach or visits out to the other. Yeah. Anyhow, Josh, love your story, and I kind of wanted to kind of get into your, kind of story, how you got into the business to begin with. I know I've heard bits and pieces of how you got started into, property management and real estate. Why don't you kind of give us that background?
But even before you tell us what you did before you got into real estate, because I think that's interesting as well. But
okay. Yeah. So I started even in high school. Maybe you guys don't know that's part of the story either, but just doing construction. My first construction job, I didn't know what I was doing, but I used my dad's old Lincoln Town car with if you've ever seen a pickup box trailer with a topper where they cut the pickup box off, you use that as a trailer.
Yeah.
So we used my dad's air compressor, bought a nail gun, and then went and started doing roofing. So my first job was my younger brother, and I think I had my 8-year-old sister, and we went and roofed some blind guy's garage.
Oh my gosh.
He couldn't tell anyway. Yeah, so I started doing construction, building houses, pole barns. Eventually wanted to go back to school just because I felt that service is where it was at. And I felt like, man, I didn't get a whole lot of fulfillment building houses for rich people. It's really misguided, but that's how I felt at the time. And I really wanted to serve. So I was a volunteer EMT, went back to school to be a teacher, quite frankly. But then it was about 2008 and 9, right? The economy's going down, AIG's collapsing, Lehman Brothers going down, and I'm student teaching at the time, and I'm watching all this happen in the current events with the kids, or high school kids, and I'm like, man, I should know a little bit more about this business stuff. Because doing construction, it was self-employed. I owned a job. It really wasn't business.
Yeah.
I picked up a business textbook, college textbook, just started reading, and just was fascinated that business just does an incredible amount of good for people. So the fact that we're trading goods and services that we can do faster, better, cheaper for people, just captivated my attention. And so I went with my wife up to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, to go to a franchise expo to look at business opportunities. And that's when we came across All County, which is a competitor to Real Property Management. And as I was doing my due diligence with them, I stumbled on Real Property Management, and they were just light years ahead, right? Kirk and Doug were going to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HSBC, Wells Fargo, and we're doing all the turning the foreclosed owners into tenants. I didn't have, I'm just going to say any money, but very little money. I was a broke college student, broke teacher. I couldn't even afford, at that time, I think it took about $70,000 to get started, right? I didn't have that. So I borrowed it out of the home equity in my home, and then had to bring in my brother Derek for the other half because I couldn't afford it. And then Kirk loaned us $20,000 as well, I think.
Oh, wow.
Franchise fee. So it was, we had to, I think, break even in the first 10 months, or I was broke and had to start over.
That's taking some risk.
Yeah, kind of scary too.
Yeah. What I guess why real estate? How did you end up that being out of all the franchises, why real estate or why property management?
Yeah. So when the market was cratering, I started getting interested in stocks and options. This was a crazy experience too, because I came from a background where it was a very working class background. Nothing was given to us. You had to work for everything you had. And I had a friend or an uncle actually. He said, if you're interested in studying the stock market, I've got this whole class on how to trade options and stocks. I'll just give it to you. It was like, it blew my mind because it was probably worth about 10 grand that he just handed to me. And so, yeah, I've learned how to trade as well. So I've continued to do that even today. I was putting on trades, but that was the investing side of it. And then I realized that, well, real estate's this other side of investing, right? You've got securities or stocks, you have commodities, and you've got real estate. And so what better way to learn the real estate side than getting a property management company? Because you're getting legal insider information. You're learning how to do it, how it works from the inside out, rather than just stumbling along, buying something and figuring it out. I get to learn on somebody else's dime, essentially. And that's what attracted me to property management. And it was really about owning a business as opposed to, because property management was so cool. That's not cool.
So now, so go ahead and take us forward now. So kind of give us, for people that don't know you or don't know what you run today, kind of fast forward from when you bought the first real property management, your office there, and then now to where it is and the size it is today and what you're currently running.
Yes, we started, it was from small town Iowa. So we went and started the office an hour away in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We knew maybe 5 people here at the time. That might even be a stretch. So we just had to build it from scratch, just doing networking. And in the first days, right, Derek and I played Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game because we literally had nothing to do. We both quit our jobs and started.
Love that game, by the way. Shawn and I used to play it.
Okay. Yeah, and then when we got our first contract, we did everything. It's like we were getting bats out of attics, plunging toilets, painting.
Oh my gosh!
Trying to bring in some revenue because there was just one contract, $8 a month. Like, this is not going to work. So fast forward, now we're almost 15 years in. We're at 4,400 occupied units, 120 employees, 2 states. As far east as Cedar Rapids, so 6 hours east, 6 hours west.
And how many units are you also a general partner in it, or part owner of?
Oh, let's see. That's probably, I apologize, I don't have this off the top of my head.
600-700 units.
600, let's say, just to be conservative.
Yeah, so that's huge. So what I always like to preface for a lot of listeners is, so from those humble beginnings to where you are today, it was 15 years, right? So it's not like a
lot of hard work. It doesn't happen overnight.
No. And that's what a lot of people I don't think realize, especially like Joni and I. It's like we've been in real estate for 25 years now, or 25 years, 24 years, and so I would say we're like the tortoises. We're very slow. We're never the fastest ones out of the blocks, but. Tell us a little bit, what were some key milestones along the way that took you from those really humble beginnings to, running a $14 million company? You're probably larger than that now, but, 120 employees, 4,400 units. Talk about some of the key maybe milestones. I know sometimes those are the whys in, like, you could have gone this way or that way, and you went, and I think maybe multifamily probably had a big influence on that, but tell us what some key milestones along the way.
Yeah, sure. So I think one that was a watershed for me was in 2015. So about 5 years in, we were pretty aggressive in trying to buy companies. Now, Sioux Falls is not that big of a town. It's 250,000 people. So there's maybe 8 companies in town, so you don't have a lot of options. But we did get somebody that said, "Yep, I'm willing to sell." They had about 500 units. And that was 2015. We purchased that at, I think it was about $500,000. So it was a massive loan. it was like crazy scary. I did all the due diligence I could think of, talked to a ton of people, used the SBA to finance it, to build a business plan, did all that, and then closed on the deal, and then got fired again and again and again and again.
Oh, wow.
Every week, I was probably two owners were letting us go. And it was crushing, right? I came home at night and my wife would say, "I still love you, but I don't like you very much." What did we learn from that? Well, one, I'm still glad we did it. Probably would have done it still in hindsight, but I learned two two important things. I think the biggest one was the value of people. For the first 5 years, I really built the business based on like E-Myth, Michael Gerber's E-Myth, build processes and use McDonald workers to turn the crank. And what I underappreciated was this business needs some people with some brains, some get after it, some, talent to get it done. And I had 100% underestimated that. Yeah.
And what's you keep going. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The other one, is kind of a minor thing, but there were people that just weren't a good fit, like from a customer standpoint, right? It's a small town, so we had actually competed to try to win the business. They decided to go with this other company, and then when we bought the company, and they had to force come to us, like, no, sorry, we said we weren't going to go with you. We don't like you for whatever reason, so they left anyway. So it's just you had to have a good culture fit.
Yeah.
What made you pivot from? Because you took that was all mainly single family, correct? How did the aha or the light bulb with multifamily? How did that switch? Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we started out all single family. That's what real property management does. It was through this acquisition, right? Taking on 500 units, it kind of, I don't know, put hair on our chest, for lack of a better terms. Like, okay, you maybe became somebody a little bit at that point. Like, you had to have the time in the saddle, and you had to have enough units to actually get the attention of guys that are, have 300 units. So we did good business, and then we got the call out of the blue of someone that was building 328 units that wanted to interview us. And it essentially was multiple connections from his attorney to his insurance agent. All those guys said, hey, talk to Josh and Derek. So we got the conversation, and we had no idea what we're doing in terms of how to price this out. I mean, we built a 10-page proposal. It was 2 10-page proposals for those guys. So it was about 20 pages in total. But they gave us a shot. They said, we don't want to take the biggest game in town. I want to take the people, the company that's the most hungry. And so they gave us a shot, and we put our heart and soul into that. And we still manage it today. And we manage a lot more of their stuff today. But that experience gave us just a ton of insight into how to manage multifamily. At the end of the day, it's still rentals, but there's so much more in terms of you doing the lawn care, the snow removal, flowers and plants, and pulling weeds, and dog park, and pools, and community rooms, and fitness centers, elevators, trash chutes, underground parking. There's just a lot more amenities you have to deal with. But they invited us into the room during the construction meeting. So we got to go to all the construction meetings. We got to see it. I mean, it didn't exist when they hired us. And we got to see it come out of the ground, get built. You give you 80 units, you had to lease that up. We did crazy things, like we were on the corner with, reindeer, or it was a deer costume, trying to get attention. So we had to learn all new things that you never had to do in single family.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Did a good job at it. And so then they kept handing us stuff.
Yeah. Josh, it's an incredible story, but I kind of want to go through why don't you tell us some of the biggest challenges you faced when you started off in your business, and maybe how did you overcome those?
You've had a lot to, right?
Maybe just a few, some of your
early ones.
some of the few early and now. As you've grown and scaled, I'm sure it's a lot different now than when you actually first started.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the challenges when I started, I mean, day one, I went to the bank and said, I need a loan to start this because I didn't have enough money for it. And they're like, well, do you have a balance sheet? Do you have a P&L? Do you have a pro forma? And I had no idea what they were talking about. So, I have an ancient history major, philosophy, theology, history, Latin, Greek, Hebrew. I don't have any business. It's nothing. I mean, I don't know what a P&L is. Where, of course, today we live and die by those things. So that was a big challenge just up front. Is everything I had to learn from scratch. And that's why going with the franchise was a no-brainer for us, because we could learn it faster.
It's kind of interesting because now your focus is finance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah, tell us, I know there was the struggle, like you said, you lost all those units as you acquired. I know you've had a recent real big challenge last year, or over this past year, but also along the way, maybe some other ones where, I mean, growing from, 0 to 4,400 doors, there's probably so many challenges. Every day is a challenge, but name some big ones. Is it people? Is it just,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So people definitely is a challenge. I mean, that's a big term, but um, what I found, and I guess I was thinking about it even as we were coming up, my ability to grow the business is directly proportional to my ability to grow myself, is what I always felt. So I always felt like I've got to constantly be evolving because the business is always demanding something different of us. And I also feel that if I ever stop, that's when I'm going to have to hand it off. If I stop evolving. And what I've seen with people too, when the business is growing at, like 50% a year or 30% a year, we can quickly outstrip their ability to keep up. So they could do the job, last year, 12 months later, they no longer can do the job because the demands of the business have outstripped what their capabilities are. So that has been a challenge, is finding people, getting them scaled up, getting the right people in the right seats has been probably our biggest challenge. And it continues to be a challenge. Right now, we started our EOS journey about a year ago officially, and hiring that leadership team has been a massive challenge. We thought we had a leadership team, and then we realized, no, we don't have a leadership team. We're just people. And we still don't have 100% of a wholly formed leadership team.
Yeah. What, in your opinion, do you find you're able to, or is it a combination, like grow your staff to keep up with those as the company's growing? And as you mentioned, sometimes you outgrow people. Are in your opinion, have you seen people grow with you, or is it like, hey, I just have to turn over and find somebody that's already there? Like
do you outgrow them?
Yeah. Does that make sense? I guess what I'm asking.
So we've always tried to grow them from within, right? Keep promoting from within. That's what we prefer to do. But the concerns of the business are such that that's no longer working. Now, we've tried to hire from without. That has not worked. So, or it's worked marginally, I guess. It has worked in a couple instances, but it's been more failure than success.
Yeah.
I think I like Merlin, Brent, those were people that you brought on. What do you think was the difference maker in them, which now are, work with you and all that, but they were key ones along the way. So what would make them different than maybe others that didn't grow with you?
Yeah. I mean, Merlin had no or very little business background, right? He's an actor. Brent had very little. I mean, he had a roofing company, but not really a business background. He's an English major, teacher. We were small enough that they could grow, right? And they had to adapt, put up with really hard things. Like we've had some seriously hard conversations over the years that a lot of people would have crushed them. So their ability to hang in those hard conversations has kept them around and continued to grow and adapt to the new challenges. But it's never comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? We never get to a point where we got to beat up, oh, wow, we've arrived.
Yeah.
Do you find that, is there that characteristic, are you able to see that characteristic in people up front, or is there a way to, I always wondered if there's a way to test for it and try to pull that out up front. And I don't know, I haven't 100% nailed that down yet, but in your opinion, or no?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. We have not gotten good at it yet. I always feel like there's a 50% chance that we're going to be successful when we hire somebody. It's a 50-50 coin flip, which is really bad odds, but
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times it comes down to leadership, right? Like good leadership. And I can attest that you're a great leader, Josh. And the leaders that you have in place are great leaders, and that's how you grow and scale. So going back to leadership, I kind of want to ask you, describe what is your leadership style, and how maybe has it evolved over time as you've grown and scaled?
Ooh, leadership style. I don't know that I have one. Leadership's an interesting one. Leadership was not something I paid any attention to until probably about 7 or 8 years ago, which I know that sounds nuts, but it wasn't something that was even on my radar. I didn't even know it was a thing that you could learn or that there was principles. Since then, of course, I've read a lot of books, and you try to capture some things. But I think it was even things like, when I was in college, I went to Greece on a class trip, and I was older because I went to college much later. I went when I was 22 or 23, and I'm zipping through downtown Athens, supposed to be leading the group. I left them in the dust. And I got my butt chewed by the professor. Says, Josh, when you're that far out in front, you're no longer leading. And that was a key takeaway. Like, oh yeah, you can be out front, but you've got to be bringing people along. If you don't have followers, you're not a leader. And so I've had to slow down and bring people along. I've messed that up more times.
I think your mind, it's because I think you're pretty brilliant. As I haven't, and I don't say that about very many people.
Oh,
but,
no, Josh is brilliant.
Yeah. So, but so I think sometimes you get ahead, and that it just because your mind is one of those, those thought leaders that I think get ahead of people, and then sometimes it's hard to for people to see it as well as quickly as you see it. But
good point.
But I guess what I wanted to ask you you mentioned earlier that you constantly improving yourself, developing yourself, and once to keep rising with the company, and then once you're done with that, you're probably done with the company and probably ready to sell. But what do you do what does your routine look like, either on a daily or weekly or yearly basis, that you evolve and keep growing and developing yourself? Is there certain things that you do? Is it just reading books? Is it podcast? Like, what do you do to keep learning?
Yeah, so I would say I get bored quite quickly. So I do have to I'm always feeding the beast, whatever it is. I wouldn't say it's a discipline. It's probably where I lack a little bit, but so it's just, for example, I got my pilot's license at 17. I went back and got my IFR rating. So you're studying all those things. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's that. I figured out I got my ham radio license, got my motorcycles license. Like, all those things just happened the last couple of years. Right now, I went back and I'm getting an MBA. So it's 15 years later. But that was kicking my butt a little bit. So I'm going through managerial economics right now. So fascinating, but it's a lot. Mm-hmm. Certainly podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts, listen to a lot of books. I think there's about 900 some titles on our Audible. I haven't listened to them all, but they're on there.
Yeah. What does your wife say with all that, with that never ending?
Josh never stops learning.
Is she can keep up with that, or is she?
Well, I got a little bit, when it started taking, that MBA was taking, it's probably about 20 hours a week in homework right now, because it's online, but it's one class and you get it done in 7 weeks. And she's like, did we talk about this? Did we agree to this? I know we talked about it. I'm not sure if we agreed.
How do you have time for that, Josh? Like, I'm here pulling my hair out with all these different businesses, and you're going back to school. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It's that's something like when Joni did that fitness competition. I was like, I agreed to it, but I didn't. You didn't like explain, and I don't think she knew. But sometimes you don't know when you're getting into something how much time and energy and.
It sounds great in theory, but then when you get into it, you're like, oh.
I didn't sign up for this.
That's totally what it was.
Yeah. And you sign up the entire family, not just yourself, right?
You took time. Yeah.
Going with that, though, one kind of quick thought that I had, because you talked about self-development, developing yourself personally, but again, you have an incredible team and brilliant as well. Like, what do you do for your team to develop your team?
Oh, man, not enough, and as much as I can. So, but for example, there's a pile of things. So I guess this is public, but anyway. I give everybody the access to my Audible account. So yeah, there's 900 titles on there, but anybody now has access to my, the employees. So go learn. Like, there's required reading they need to go through, but there's also things, if they want a book, happy to buy it for them. We built a How to Be a Great Boss book study by, it's the EOS, How to Be a Great Boss. So we turned that into a book study. So I led the first two sessions of it. Now Matt in our company, he's leading the third session. So trying to get all of our managers through that.
Yeah.
Merlin, I think, is going to start strategic coach. He's also in the integrator, EOS integrator.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like them to do even more, but sometimes how do you find good stuff? We're also building a ton of training that just happened in the last quarter using AI and whatnot. And I also just recently have realized we also have a hole in helping, we tell our people how to be lever pullers. Like we've taught them how to run our business, but we haven't given them the background. Like here's the accounting background. Here's the property management background. Like really build that solid foundation. And I'd like to be able to do that too. And I'm trying to find something that's out there.
It's never ending. Lots to do.
I've found that it's always, you know, I think sometimes the employee has to come have that drive and want it, and you foster it, but you also, they also come wanting to learn. And wanting, they'll come to you with, I think the best employees a lot of times will come to you with, like, hey, I want to take this accounting course to further, you know, so they can understand certain financials or whatever, and they'll and will you pay for it? And I think, or you know, something like that where you can further, but they gotta want it, and they gotta
Yeah,
bring
and I
it.
think a lot of times they see you, right? You developing yourself, and you create that culture, so they, you know, that's the team members that you attract is ones that, I mean, for us, I can say that people that work for us like want to grow, they want to improve themselves, because if not, they probably wouldn't be working for us.
Do you going back to like scaling as quickly as you did and as fast? Can you answer a couple? There's a two-part question. A lot of my questions always come in two questions at one time. So I was always fascinated on, you know, we live in the fourth largest city in America. You probably live, I don't even know where it ranks, but a very small town. I mean, it's not the smallest, but you know, and growing up in Iowa, that was probably even smaller. But you know, you built an incredible business in a smaller town or a smaller market. That's what I should say, smaller market, and have really scaled it. Talk about some of how you did that and what challenges living in a smaller market. Maybe you can be a big fish in a larger pond rather than a very small fish. You know, but talk about that, and then some of the strategies and things that you did to manage that growth and scaling as quickly as you did. There's a lot. Yeah.
So I've never done it in a large city, so I don't know. And it feels like doing it in a small town is actually perhaps easier because you don't have the competition. And if you even just think about, I'm like, how do you guys get a Google ad out there? Like the competition's got to be intense. Like how would anybody see your Google ad? Or for us, we can dominate that first.
Right.
That first space, you know, and for not that much money. And so you do have that aspect. I think it's easier. And then, you know, that's Sioux Falls at 250,000 people, but then we're in small towns like 4,000 or 5,000 people. You're not even competing, you know,
Wow.
I mean, you're just working. So it's actually easier in a certain sense. It feels like maybe.
Yeah. Okay. And there wasn't any challenges being small, you felt?
I don't think so. No, I mean, the challenge would be that
there's not
if
enough,
the
right?
rate is lower. If the rent rate's too low, right, then your percentage, like if I had to start over again, you go do it in Washington, D.C., where the rents are the highest, right? Because a percent of a higher amount is better. So that's probably the challenge then. The other piece is when we go to these small towns, right, you need to have a concentration. We'd like to see a minimum of 100 units, ideally 150 units, so that you get economies of scale. Because otherwise if you have 70 units, you got a full-time person there and it just doesn't work. You got too much payroll sitting around. So that's probably the bigger challenge when it's too small.
Gotcha. And what about scaling now? Talked about, you know, as you guys grew, how did you manage that growth so quickly and some of the challenges with that?
Yeah, so what I've noticed as we scale, it definitely is true. What got you here won't get you there. The tricks that worked before no longer work. You have to redevelop things. The software, the tools that you're using no longer work. The people that you have hired no longer work. And so everything it really gets, you really feel like you're in a state of flux all the time because everything is changing. And I also think about, like, I don't know if you can see this, but kind of a plateau. Like you get to a certain point and then you have to invest and you get kind of inefficient and then you plateau again as you build into that new set of growth, right? I mean, just in even office space, you know, we built one office building that worked for 2 years. Now suddenly we're bursting at the seams. We got 2 people per office. Well, now we got to build another one. Well, now that one's half full, right? So you get inefficient for a period of time as you kind of shed your skin. You know, think about it like a cicada or a crab, right? You kind of got to molt and then build that next bigger boat to hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Capacities. So like think about AppFolio, right? You start with basic level AppFolio, then you got AppFolio Plus, now we're at AppFolio Max, and you need those things because one of the things that happens at scale is you cannot see anymore. Like it's very opaque. At 4,500, I can't tell like which one's going off the rails. Where I'm at 100, I know exactly which one's going off the rails. So now you have to find new ways of figuring out, okay, who's in trouble, who needs extra attention in terms of which property and which unit.
Mm.
Nice.
And do you feel like technology that solves that, or is it, or both, or people? Yeah.
Solves part of it. So technology can give us the visibility into where the problem, where the hotspots are, but it will not solve it for us. And I think that's a mistake we've made too, is like we think technology will solve it. It just won't. We still need people who are managing people to go out and fix what technology has exposed for us.
Yeah.
Cool. So let me break this down to our listeners. So Josh went from single family to then multifamily, right? And then now you are actually doing general partnerships and transactions. Is that correct, Josh?
Yes.
So what motivated you to become a general partner in multifamily transactions, and what does that role entail?
Well, I'll do the fun part first then. So why do that? Well, one is we got exposure to it. So by doing the multifamily, we got to talk to the investors, we got to learn what they cared about. And so we started building tools to address what they cared about. And then we saw, oh, it's not that hard. We can do this stuff too. So we thought, so yeah, we stepped into it in the sense of like the first one we did was we're managing the property and they want to sell it. They're like, hey, what if we would buy it? So that was an easy one. Yep, we could agree on a price. Went out and raised $1.1 million in capital, got debt on it, and away we went. It was this little 40 or 38 unit property. What we realized though, and let me take you back here a minute. When we start out single family, you end up paying for every lead. You either buy it in terms of advertising or you buy it in terms of acquisition, like buying a company. Then we got to the point where we could actually help consult on those deals and we could get paid a commission to help people buy property. It was like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah.
It started actually, we learned that 50% of our new business was coming from people who are repeat customers. So now we're getting it for free, but then you go over to the point where you're getting paid to bring in new business. So that's where I want to be. You go from paying advertising dollars to getting them for free to getting paid. Well, syndications is another way to either get it for free or get paid to do it. So that's originally how we started. It's like, hey, we could get paid extra money to bring in new units into our property management company. We've switched that a little bit as the market has tightened, and we're basically just trying to do it for free. So if I can get new property management contracts for free without having to pay for them, to me, that's a massive win. And so syndications are a way to do that. We don't actually have to make money on doing the syndication, as long as we can just feed our management company and provide the investor with a great return. So it's a way to really help us control our growth versus having to wait for a third party person to say, hey, would you guys like to manage our property?
Love it.
And what, and that, again, that it doesn't always, the grass isn't, how do I put this right? I think, because you're a good testament, like you're a visionary, you see things like that, you see like, hey, how can we, I don't only want to manage the property and make money that way, I'm going to figure out how I can grow my company, make money, additional money and revenue, and at the same time. But it's not, there's always challenges, right, that come with all that. So can you talk about maybe I know you had a recent one in Iowa.
Oh, yes. Tell us about that.
So, I mean, it's not, I want listeners to know, like, hey, like, because everybody wants to become a syndicator. And then the last, 5 years, everybody wanted to be a syndicator. And so, and it's not always, so talk about some of those issues and challenges, because I think it brings it real and makes it, not just an Instagram post, that just, hey, I bought these things. It's like, hey, there's a lot that goes into all this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, try to keep this one short because this one's still ongoing. So yeah, we purchased 4 different properties all at once. It was about a $34 million deal, raised $12 million in capital on April 1st of this year. And on June 22 of this year, massive storms came through Iowa, the levees broke. And And we ended up with 2.5 feet of water through 84 units of that 180 unit project.
On a property
Yeah.
built in what, 2019, right?
Yeah, it was new property.
New property.
Right? It's not in the floodplain. There's no flood insurance. Yeah, just bad. There's fish and snakes floating through the hallways. The fridges floated, right? They're big boxes there. They float and they're all on their face.
Oh my
You know, it's
gosh.
just like an apocalypse. So yeah, I mean, what do you do? But it gets worse, you know. So you have no insurance. So how do you pay for this? So you just start getting to work. So we pulled a bunch of volunteers, helped haul the stuff to the trash, got a company out there to start ripping it apart, and then start putting it back together. And we didn't have any money for it was the challenge. And it was a Fannie Mae loan, and you learn a bunch of lessons learned. But this is a Fannie Mae loan. And Fannie would not give us a construction loan to fix it, even though it was a 65% loan to value. So it was well capitalized. But like, nope, we will not give you money until it's fixed. It's like, well, that doesn't help me now. Then we said, okay, well, a local bank, will you give us money? And they're like, yeah, we'd be happy to give you money, but we need a second on the mortgage. And Fannie Mae's like, no, can't have a second on the mortgage. Like, what are you talking about? Like, where do you want me to get money? Then we went to the SBA because the SBA is supposed to help businesses in this situation. And I got a letter, I don't know, like 3 months of dealing with them that they said, the flood didn't cause the damage. You got to be kidding me. And so essentially what we did is we put this whole thing back together. It is back together now. I think we're short like 23 fridges from having it fully done. And one of the investors came in with 2.2 million to just give us an unsecured loan for a year and a half. And then I got terms from the vendors to kind of hold off paying them, which I still owe them $800,000 yet. So now we're finished rebuilding it. Now I got to try to figure out a way to get it refinanced efficiently, which has been a little bit difficult. So that's the stage we're at right now.
Yeah.
And what I loved about, I mean, not loved about it. It's a total word to use. What I think what showed your true character and true was I think, you know, as right now in 2024, we've seen a lot of syndicators go under. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of them just bail out, wipe out a lot of investors' money. You know, you rolled up, your character was to roll up, you know, your sleeves. Hey, we got to get through this. We're going to get through it. We're going to, you know, you volunteered, your family volunteered, everybody got involved. So I think that's what showing, you know, the grit and the,
yeah.
You know,
and totally. And I think that you have to, as an investor, you really need to, you know, look at who you're working with, because as an investor myself, you know, we were invested in this as well, right? Yeah. Shawn and I knew that you were going to take care of things, like no concerns at all. But again, we know you. We also know that the business that you operate is, you know, it's solid, right? And so it matters. Like who you work with matters. So really, really you have to do your due diligence, because I mean, it does matter.
Yeah. So, but it didn't scare you off enough to where you stopped there, right? You kept going, right?
No, we got another one. We got to close by the end of this year. So
now that we're talking on that subject, what projects do you have going on right now?
Yeah, so right now we have District 42 is in Sioux City, Iowa. It's 215 units, built only 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so that's, what is it, 29 million-ish? And we got to raise about 9.4 million. So we're really close. We just got a couple of minor things that got to fall in place. And then, it's going to be a race to the finish line to get it closed by the end of the year.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely have to put that all in the show notes as well, so our listeners know where to find you, and so you can tell them about your deal if you're looking for investors.
Yeah. Well, we keep looking for them, right? It's a little bit tough right now where the interest rates are at. So it's difficult for everybody. But we don't need to do a deal just because, right?
Right.
We have a property management company, and if the deals aren't there, it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
How are you still able to find deals in today's market? What are some of the things you're looking at as you investigate and look for syndication deals and multifamily deals?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things. Obviously, you're looking at the market in general. Is it a growing market? Because that's what you're hoping for, that the population's growing. Because at some point, you're going to want to sell it and you want some appreciation on it. Interest rates are a big deal. So this one, we're working with Fannie Mae, which is difficult, right? We haven't learned our lesson, but it's are sufficiently better, or, significantly better. It does come with some downsides, but, and then you think about construction costs and what it would take to replace this project. We're getting it at a good enough price that you couldn't replace it for what we're buying it for. And then we can layer in a few extra things like a telecom deal to increase the cash on cash by about 80 basis points, and do a couple things like that just to make it a little bit better. So
little tweaks here and there
Yeah.
to improve the bottom line.
Yeah, and we're not trying to do C class that we've got to rehab and rebuild. We're not good at that, at least not yet. So we try to find something that's rent ready. We have done some build projects. It's been challenging when you build. Every build project that we've done has gone over budget, just because the build costs just keep cranking up, and it's just difficult. So it really can mess with your performance at that point. You get to the end, you're like, what? It's 7-8% more than what we budgeted for.
Yeah. So you're more of like an operations efficiency, I guess, expert, some questions we have, just some general stuff, just a lot of listeners just starting out wanting to know more about real estate. What advice would you give somebody that's just starting out and looking either to get into multifamily or single family? What advice would you give them?
Oh man, I guess some basic stuff, but if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So just doing the due diligence.
Yep.
Another one is just partnering with good people. I know it sounds trite, but man, getting in a bad partnership just takes all the fun out of it.
Yep.
Because when things go south, if you got somebody pulling along with you, it just makes it worthwhile. And then another easy, depends on where people are at in life, but if you can work with or for someone doing this, man, you can learn a lot.
Yeah. So true. Those are great advice.
Like if I couldn't do this if somebody didn't come alongside us, and we got paid to learn, right?
Right.
A great gig. Somebody else for your mistakes.
Yeah. Using, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what are you seeing in the future, like next 3 to 5 years? Let's just talk about the multifamily space. What trends are you seeing? Where do you think that market's headed?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the local market. In Sioux Falls, we're pretty overbuilt just because it was gangbusters. So we got to let that, the occupancy and the population catch up. It really depends on interest rates. It depends on inflation. Those are the two big drivers. Depends what the Fed does. I think there is also, certainly on the commercial side, there could still be some problems. But as these loans, like people that had low interest rate loans come due for renewal and they have to refinance, that's when they have to decide what they're going to do. So there are still going to be some opportunities there. Just high interest rates keep the prices down, which in a certain sense is kind of good for buyers. It's like, wow, I'm paying a high interest rate. Yeah, that's fine. But you're buying at a low basis, or a comparatively low basis. And so that way, if the interest rates ever come down, well, now you can refinance or sell, right? Sell at a lower interest rate means your value just went up. So buying at a high interest rate, if you can make it work, is not a horrible thing. It's actually kind of
nice.
Then I think, in terms of multifamily, I think it's still going to be good for years to come in terms of where the build costs are and interest rates. Right? It's really hard for people to buy a home, and so they end up renting.
Yeah. Good point. One of my favorite questions that I like to ask Josh, if you were just starting out and can go back in your early 20s, what advice would you give yourself?
It's nothing to do with real estate.
It's okay.
It's lift weights and eat clean.
Yeah, there you go.
That's sweet.
It doesn't get easier as you get older.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in the meat up there in South Dakota, but yeah, you and your team are tall, strong. Yeah. So your whole team's pretty, lifts a lot of weights, I think, and eats a lot of protein. Yeah. So,
yeah.
No, we really appreciate you, Josh, you taking the time today and just sharing some of your insights. You got some valuable insights. I always enjoy talking to you. And so I hope some people got some real takeaways that they could utilize. But just real quickly, if people are wanting to know more about your company, your syndications that you're offering, where can they reach out to you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, my email is josh@expressrpm.com. So Real Express, and then for Real Property Management, expressrpm.com.
And in your syndication website, do you have like
Liberty Capital Consulting, libertycapitalconsulting.com.
Cool.
Sweet.
We'll
Well,
put that.
That'll be, we try to put every new deal that we have up there. So if you want to get on our mailing list, you can I think there's a form on there you can submit, or you can see what we have available right now. But then we can just keep you informed when these things pop, because it's not, they come and go. It's kind of spurts.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
have them and you don't.
Cool. We'll put those
Awesome.
in the show notes. But again, thank you for your time and your wisdom. And hopefully some people like us will join you in some of your future deals. Or if they have some deals up in, what markets are you currently managing in Iowa? And
Yeah, pretty much all of Iowa and most of South Dakota. So yes, Cedar Rapids. We'll be in Council Bluffs here shortly.
Okay.
Sioux Falls, Rapid City, probably Des Moines at some point.
Cool.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Josh.
Hey.
And listeners, tune in to this episode. Lots of knowledge from Josh Kattenberg. So thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.